On this day in African history, the 30th of November 1953, Kabaka Mutesa II, the king of Buganda, was exiled to London by the colonial governor, Sir Andrew Cohen, thrusting Buganda into one of the most dramatic political storms in its history, in what has come to be known as the 1953 Kabaka crisis. The tension began as soon as the Kabaka returned from the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in July of that year. Word reached Buganda that he had not been given a carriage in the procession, while other monarchs had been. To many Baganda, this felt like a deliberate slight, a sign that Britain no longer regarded their king with the respect they believed he deserved. At the same moment, a report appeared in the East African Standard, quoting Colonial Secretary Oliver Lytton, hinting at a future East African Federation, a unification for whole East African territories. For a kingdom that had always resisted federation, fearing it would erase the protections of the 1900 agreement, this sent shockwaves through Buganda. Paul Kavuma, the Katikiro, wrote to Cohen immediately, warning that Buganda would never accept such a move. On the 6th of August 1953, Mutesa took a decisive step, writing to Cohen rejecting the federation in the strongest terms, demanding that Buganda's relationship with Britain be returned to the authority of the Foreign Office instead of the Colonial Office, and calling for the preparations of Buganda's independence, which alarmed the British administrators. On the 27th of October, Cohen summoned the Kabaka to Entebbe, where a series of tense hours-long meetings demanded that the Kabaka issue a public declaration accepting Buganda's position as a province of Uganda under the British authority, which the Kabaka refused. According to the Katikiro Kavuma, during one of the heated sessions, Anthony General Dreshfield warned blatantly that if the Kabaka continued to reject Britain's direction, recognition of him as Kabaka would be withdrawn. Even after these threats, Kabaka Mutesa II stood his ground and refused to budge. And so, on the night of November the 30th, 1953, Governor Cohen made his move. British officials entered the palace, removed the Kabaka under armed guard and drove him to Entebbe and put him on a plane out of Uganda. By morning, the people of Buganda awoke to the unthinkable. Their king had been deposed and sent to exile to England. To many Baganda, the crisis felt like a direct attack on their identity itself, and they rose up in protest. In the Kabaka's absence, the British appointed a regency council led by the Katikiro Paul Kavuma, of which some Baganda accused Kavuma of betraying the Kabaka, receiving threatening letters, including one containing a bullet, and facing open hostility whenever he appeared in public. Regaining the trust of the people seemed nearly impossible. Still, constitutional negotiations continued, legal challenges were mounted, and political pressure inside and outside the kingdom grew steadily. By 1955, nearly 2 years of standoff, the British government accepted that Kabaka's exile had only hardened Buganda's unity. Following the Hancock's Committee's investigation and a High Court ruling that challenged the legality of some of the governor's actions, an agreement was reached to restore Kabaka Mutesa II. In October 1955, he returned to scenes of immense celebration with crowds lining the roads and filling the capital. His return, however, also marked the end of Paul Kavuma's time as the Prime Minister or Katikiro. The Kabaka chose not to reappoint him, believing the political climate made it impossible for him to continue. Crisis of 1953 to 55 exile, regency, legal battle, and triumphant return remains one of the most defining chapters of Buganda's modern history. It reshaped the kingdom's politics, exposed the limits of British power, and set stage for the struggles that would follow on Uganda's road towards independence. Next, on this day in African history, the 1st of December 2016, Adama Barrow wins Gambia's presidential election, ending Yahya Jammeh's 22-year rule, which began with a coup.